She told me with a straight face that her birthday wish was for me to disappear. Most people would have argued. I just listened and gave her exactly what she asked for. Hey everyone, thanks for stopping by again. I appreciate you being here. I've got a fresh story to tell and I'd really like to hear what you all think. So let's rewind a bit. For months, it felt like I was in a constant tug-of-war with Emily. Every conversation somehow spiraled into a disagreement. No matter how many times Mike tried to mend the cracks between us, it always backfired. Our home, once a place of comfort, had turned into a tense battlefield. We tiptoed around each other like soldiers dodging mines, bracing for the next emotional detonation. We were both completely drained. But I held on to this quiet hope that maybe her upcoming birthday could be the lifeline we needed. I thought maybe, just maybe, if I gave her something meaningful, something she truly wanted, we might be able to reconnect and remember what brought us together in the first place. It was about 3 weeks before her birthday when I finally decided to take one last swing at it. We had just finished another dinner where we barely spoke, sitting across from each other like two strangers forced to share the same space. As she stood at the sink, aggressively scrubbing the dishes like they'd personally offended her, I took a breath and tried again. "What would you like for your birthday?" I asked, my voice soft but serious. It wasn't a loaded question. I really wanted to know. But she didn't even look at me. She just kept scrubbing that same plate over and over, like she was trying to erase it from existence. "I don't know," she said, sharp and flat. That tone, low but heavy, it was always the first sign that the mood was about to turn. "Come on," I said, gently stepping closer. "There's got to be something. Maybe a little getaway, some jewelry, or that spa weekend you mentioned a while back." That's when she finally faced me. And I'll never forget the expression she wore. I'd seen her irritated before, even furious, but this was something else entirely. It was weariness mixed with something colder, something that didn't care anymore. "You really want to know what I want?" she asked, her voice rising with every word. "Yes," I said, trying to stay calm, thinking she was about to hit me with a pricey gift idea or some grand plan I'd have to pull off. "You want to know what would actually make me happy on my birthday?" I nodded, bracing myself. But I had no idea what was coming next. She looked me dead in the eye and said it, clear as day, "The best gift you could give me for my birthday would be to just disappear." It felt like someone had taken a swing at my chest. Not because it was completely out of the blue. Deep down, I knew things were breaking between us. But it was the way she said it, like it was a weight finally being lifted off her shoulders. Like she had been keeping that truth buried for so long that saying it aloud was the first real breath she'd taken in months. And just in case I didn't grasp it the first time, she repeated herself, steady and certain, "I want you gone. That would make me truly happy. Just don't be here anymore." I didn't respond. I couldn't. I just stood there, rooted in the middle of the kitchen we had once dreamed about together. Photos of vacations, the kids' drawings on the fridge, the smell of the pasta we never finished, it all surrounded me, and still I felt completely hollow. Something inside me just shut off. Not out of rage. Not like her, cold and precise. Mine was a deeper kind of numb, the kind you can't cry your way out of. She turned her back on me then, like she'd crossed something off a to-do list. Kept washing the dishes, maybe even feeling lighter for finally telling me what was in her heart. The silence that followed wasn't just uncomfortable, it was final. Like there was no path back across the divide between us. But the strange thing about people getting what they ask for? It almost never arrives how they imagined. As I watched her standing there, scrubbing like she was trying to erase every trace of me, I made a choice. Right then, right in that moment. If vanishing was what she wanted more than anything, then that's exactly what I'd give her. Only, the way I planned to disappear? That part, that was going to stick with her. "All right," I said, barely more than a whisper. She probably thought I was folding again like all the other times. That I'd retreat into silence and sleep on the couch like usual. She had no clue. Because the next morning? Everything was about to shift, but not in the way she ever expected. I woke up earlier than usual that morning, before my alarm even had the chance to buzz. I brewed a pot of coffee like I always did and sat down at the kitchen table, staring into the steam rising from my mug, thinking about everything and nothing all at once. When Emily came down the stairs, there was something different about her. She looked lighter somehow. Like unloading the truth about wanting me gone had lifted some unseen burden from her chest. "Morning," she said, actually meeting my eyes for the first time in what felt like forever. "Morning," I replied, casually taking a sip from my coffee. She paused for a beat, like she was waiting on me to say something, maybe to bring up what she'd said the night before, to apologize for my role in it, or to lash out and throw her words back at her. But I didn't give her any of that. I just nodded slowly and said, "I got the message." Loud and clear. Something flickered in her expression then, surprise, maybe even a hint of uncertainty. She had been bracing for impact, expecting emotion, expecting noise. What she got was stillness. And that stillness seemed to throw her off more than any fight ever had. In the days that followed, I began peeling back little by little. I stopped doing all the things that used to spark arguments. I quit trying to organize date nights she never showed interest in. I stopped bringing up our problems or suggesting we talk through them like adults. No more handwritten notes tucked into her car visor. No more pouring her coffee before she made it to the kitchen. No more reaching out when she pulled away. She noticed, of course. How could she not? But instead of being alarmed, she just seemed satisfied. Like the version of me that had stopped caring was the one she'd been waiting on. "You've been different lately," she said one evening as we brushed past each other in the hallway. "Have I?" I replied without breaking stride, offering no further explanation. "Yeah. I don't know, calmer. Peaceful. Peaceful." That's the word she chose. But what she saw as peace wasn't peace at all. I wasn't surrendering, I was preparing. While she was basking in the quiet, thinking she'd finally found some kind of relief, I was working behind the scenes. Taking small, deliberate steps to disappear, just like she said she wanted. I started sorting through our financials, scanning and copying the paperwork that mattered. Quietly learning what I'd need to legally and practically untangle myself from our life. I opened a separate bank account, nothing major, just a small one, and began moving tiny amounts of money, small enough to stay off her radar. I was no longer reacting. I was planning. I started documenting everything, every shared bill, every joint account, every debt with both our names on it. While Emily sat on the couch at night, scrolling through her phone with that same easy smile she'd worn since our kitchen showdown, I was holed up in my little home office, sketching out her birthday gift. The irony wasn't lost on me. I was putting more care and effort into this gift than I had into just about anything in the past year. And what she wanted, what she'd made perfectly clear, was a life without me in it. 2 weeks before her birthday, something unexpected happened. We were eating dinner, quietly as usual. She pushed some lettuce around on her plate, then looked up and said, "I've been thinking, maybe we should do something this year for my birthday." I raised my eyes from my food, surprised she was even talking to me. "Oh yeah. Yeah, maybe have a few people over. Nothing big, just something simple." Simple. Sure. Because throwing a birthday party for your wife who openly said she'd be happier if you vanished is just a casual task. "Who were you thinking of inviting?" I asked, keeping my voice even. "The usual group," she said, still not meeting my gaze. "My sister Jessica, some coworkers, a couple of neighbors." The usual group, as in the same group who'd probably been watching us fall apart in real time, silently judging, maybe even betting behind closed doors on when the marriage would finally collapse. "Sounds good," I said with a nod. "I can help set it up." She blinked, clearly caught off guard. "Really? You don't mind?" "Mind?" I said, forcing a smile. "Not at all. It's your day. You should have exactly what you want." That's when she smiled, really smiled, for the first time in what felt like forever. And honestly, why wouldn't she? She had said she wanted me gone. And instead of putting up a fight or begging her to take it back, I was acting like I'd accepted it. Like I was at peace. She had no idea that while she was planning drinks and decorations, I was planning something else entirely. Something she'd remember for a long, long time. I was going to give her exactly what she asked for. Just not in the way, or at the moment, she thought it would happen. The party was set to be flawless. Absolutely flawless, because this was going to be my final act. One last performance before I granted Emily the birthday wish she'd spoken so clearly. And the surprise I had in store for her? That part she was never going to forget. Her birthday fell on a Saturday. Couldn't have been more convenient. A weekend celebration, and the perfect window for everything I'd been planning in silence. I got up before she did and got straight to work. Prepping food, setting out decorations, making sure every little detail matched her taste. If someone had walked in that morning, they'd have thought I was campaigning for Husband of the Year. She kept glancing over at me throughout the day, her expression shifting between confusion and suspicion. Like she couldn't figure out why I was being so present. "You're really going all out," she said as I was taping streamers across the living room archway. "It's your birthday," I said with a smile. "It should be nothing less than perfect." By mid-afternoon, the house looked incredible. Every corner was cleaned, the playlist was humming softly through the speakers, the drinks were cold, and the kitchen counter was lined with snacks. I even pulled out the shirt she gave me last Christmas, The one I'd buried in the back of the closet because we were barely speaking when she gave it to me. Guests started arriving right on time, around 4. Her sister Jessica came first with her husband, followed by 3 of Emily's co-workers, and then a couple of familiar faces from the neighborhood. The vibe was easy. Why wouldn't it be? Free food, flowing drinks, and a front row seat to the relationship drama they'd all been quietly observing from the sidelines. They were probably wondering if we'd fix things, or just learn to fake it better. And what they saw? Well, it was a performance I'd rehearsed for weeks. I played the part perfectly, warm, thoughtful, attentive. I made the rounds like a seasoned host, asking if anyone needed anything, refilling glasses, cracking quiet jokes to keep the mood high. I even leaned in and complimented Emily's dress, handed her drinks without being asked, and nodded along like her story still lit something up in me. If you didn't know better, you'd think we were one of those couples who'd been through rough waters and somehow come out stronger. That's exactly the image I needed. At one point, Jessica pulled me into the kitchen while I was dumping more ice into the cooler. She smiled, warm and a little surprised. "I've got to say, you two seem really good together today." I met her eyes and gave her the most genuine smile I could manage. "Yeah," I said. "We're in a good place." And in a way we were, just not the kind of place she thought. "We're working on things," I told Jessica, and technically that wasn't a lie. "She seems happy," she said, glancing back toward the living room. "Happier than I've seen her in a long time." Happy? Yeah, she was happy all right. She had gotten exactly what she asked for. I'd stopped fighting. I stopped pushing for anything. And now, here I was throwing her the picture-perfect birthday party, acting like I was finally at peace with the end of our marriage. Around 7 o'clock, everyone was gathered in the living room, swapping funny memories and stories about past birthdays. I stood off to the side, quietly watching her. Emily was laughing, really laughing. The kind of laugh that makes your shoulders drop and your eyes close for a second. She looked genuinely relaxed, surrounded by people who loved her, all of them sharing in her moment. It was the happiest I'd seen her in months. And why wouldn't she be? She had it all right in front of her. Her favorite people, her beautiful home, the husband who had finally stopped getting in the way of her peace. I slipped outside onto the back patio to catch my breath. The air had cooled down, and through the window I could still hear the hum of voices, laughter, clinking glasses. The whole thing had gone off exactly as planned. In just a few hours it would all be over. The guests would filter out, offering hugs and leftovers and goodnight wishes. Emily would probably thank me for pulling it together. We'd climb into bed like any other couple. But tomorrow is when her real birthday gift would begin. When I stepped back inside, Emily was surrounded by gifts and wrapping paper. Her sister had just handed her a small jewelry box. The sparkle in Emily's eyes said she liked it. A spa gift card from her work friends. A fancy bottle of red from the neighbors. She looked pleased with every bit of it, grateful even. Then Jessica turned to me and asked, "Okay, your turn. What did you get her?" I smiled and looked directly at Emily. "I'm saving the best for last," I said. She raised an eyebrow, intrigued but not suspicious. Why would she be? I had been playing the part so well, devoted, calm, present. The version of me she had probably hoped for all along. After the gifts we brought out the cake. More drinks were poured. The music played a little louder. By 10 o'clock, people were starting to say their goodbyes, full of food, wine, and warm impressions of an evening well spent. They had no idea they'd just witnessed the closing act. Jessica hugged Emily before leaving, whispering something in her ear that made her laugh, soft and genuine. Her co-workers promised to take her out for lunch sometime next week, and the neighbors thanked us both, saying it had been a wonderful evening. By the time the door closed behind the last guest, it was just the two of us. Emily began gathering empty glasses and plates from around the room, humming quietly like someone who'd had a good night and didn't want it to end too quickly. "Thank you," she said, not turning to look at me. "That was really nice." "I'm glad you enjoyed it," I said, starting to clear the table with her. She hesitated for a second, holding a small stack of dishes. "Maybe we could do this more often. You know, have people over, be more social again. Be more social. Like we were a couple planning future dinner parties and game nights. Like there was a future to build together." "Maybe," I said quietly. She went upstairs to change while I stayed behind, wiping down counters and stacking leftover food in the fridge. When she came back down in her pajamas, there was something softer about her, almost like the weight she'd been carrying had truly lifted. She looked young again, lighter. She curled up on the couch and smiled. "Okay," she said, a playful look in her eyes. "You said you were saving the best for last. So, where's my real gift?" I sat down next to her, close enough that our knees touched. She didn't move away. Your real present starts tomorrow, I said. Tomorrow? She echoed, her smile faltering just a bit. Remember what you told me you wanted for your birthday? I asked. There was a flicker in her eyes then, uncertainty. That lightness she'd been floating in all evening began to dim. What I said that night? She asked, her voice quiet. I was upset. We both were. I didn't mean. No, I interrupted, keeping my voice calm and steady. You were being honest. Maybe for the first time in a long time. She opened her mouth to speak, but I raised a hand gently to stop her. You told me the best gift I could give you was to disappear. That not having me here anymore would make you happy. I watched her face change. Her lips parted, but no words came. The color drained slowly from her cheeks. So, I said with quiet certainty. That's what I'm giving you. Exactly what you asked for. I woke up at 5 o'clock the next morning. She was still asleep, curled tightly on her side of the bed, just like she'd been for months, pressed as far away from me as possible without falling off the edge. The night before, after I told her what her gift truly was, she'd fallen into a strange silence. Then she tried to walk it back, said she didn't mean it, that married people say things they don't mean all the time. But I stopped her right there. No, I said, looking her straight in the eyes. You meant it. And I respect you enough to take you at your word. That was the last thing I said to her before she went upstairs. She didn't reply, just turned, climbed the stairs, and disappeared into the bedroom without saying another word. Now, in the pale gray light of early morning, I got dressed quietly. No sounds, no rush. I moved through the house like a shadow. Downstairs, I went into my office where everything had already been set up, waiting for this moment. The documents were neatly stacked. Bank records, duplicate copies of anything important, and a list of the contacts I'd need to inform in the coming days. It had taken me 2 full weeks to organize this, to make sure nothing was left to chance. That separate bank account I'd opened? Fully funded now. Over the past few days, I had been quietly moving the essentials, just the things that really mattered to me, into a small storage unit on the other side of town. My clothes, some of my favorite books, a couple of old photo albums with family pictures. Just enough to not feel like I was starting from zero. Not enough for her to notice. I sat down at the desk and wrote my note. Plain white paper. No flourish, no emotion spilling onto the page. Just the truth. You said you wanted me to disappear. You said it would be the best birthday gift you could ask for. Consider your wish granted. Don't look for me. This is what you asked for. I folded the note in half and left it on the kitchen counter, exactly where she'd find it first, right next to the coffee pot. The same one I used to pour from every single morning. Then I grabbed my keys, my wallet, and the one duffel bag I had packed the night before. I walked out of the home we had built together, lived in for 3 years. No hesitation. Just quiet steps through the front door. Outside, the morning air was cool and still. Not a single light on in the neighboring houses. No sound of cars. No dogs barking. Just stillness. Like the world was holding its breath for what came next. I got into my car and drove away. Away from the house, from the street, from the life that no longer had room for me. I'd rented a modest place on the far side of town. Nothing special. Just a small, furnished studio that came with what I needed and no more. I'd paid 3 months up front, all in cash. No loose ends. By 7 a.m., I was sitting at a tiny table by a new window, sipping coffee from a mug I didn't recognize, watching the sunrise cast unfamiliar light across the floor. I knew she'd be waking up around then. Expecting the usual, me in the kitchen, coffee already brewed, maybe humming to myself like nothing had changed. Instead, she'd find silence. And a note. My phone stayed off. I'd bought a new one the day before with a different number, clean slate. The old phone was in a drawer in the nightstand at my new place, tucked away where I wouldn't have to look at it. I wasn't ready to face whatever might be waiting there. Around 9 o'clock that morning, curiosity got the best of me. I turned it on for just a moment. 12 missed calls. 8 unread texts. Where are you? This isn't funny. Come home. Let's talk. You can't just leave. I didn't mean it. Please call me back. You're being ridiculous. Fine. Have your tantrum. You'll be back. I turned it off again. She thought this was about drama. That I was making some big emotional scene just to shake her up, get attention, or make her feel guilty. She had no idea this wasn't an act. This was the start of something real, something permanent. Over the next few days, I began building my new rhythm. I went to work like nothing had changed. Didn't say a word to anyone. No one there knew what was going on. I ate my meals alone. Read books I'd bought years ago but never opened. Took long walks through neighborhoods I'd never had a reason to visit. There was a strange stillness in the quiet, but not an uncomfortable one. It was peaceful. Strange but peaceful. I could imagine what was happening back at the house. Her confusion turning to irritation, then maybe anger. After a couple days without hearing from me, that irritation probably turned into unease. Maybe even fear. Thursday came, 5 days after I vanished. On my way back from work, I took a detour and drove past the house. Her car was parked out front and so was Jessica's. So the cavalry had arrived. I didn't slow down. Friday morning I checked the old phone again. 23 missed calls now. The text had stopped altogether. But the real storm hadn't hit yet. By the time the second week rolled around, I could tell the panic had truly settled in. I didn't need to hear from Emily to know, it was obvious in other ways. That Monday morning at work, my secretary stopped me in the hallway. "Hey," she said gently, "someone called asking for you. Said she's your sister?" Sounded worried. Asked if you were okay. I kept my expression flat. "It's just some personal stuff. A little family drama. Nothing to worry about." She nodded and didn't ask again. But I knew Jessica had started reaching out beyond Emily's phone. They were looking for me now. The surprise they still didn't see coming? That I was just getting started. Just some personal stuff. Nothing that affects work. That's what I told my secretary. And honestly, that's what our marriage had turned into, personal drama. A private mess that I was no longer willing to manage. I also knew Emily had gone to the police. A friend of mine from high school, now a local officer, sent me a message through a private channel. Just a heads up. Nothing formal yet. But she'd filed a missing persons report. The messages on my old phone were starting to sound less angry and more afraid. The tone had shifted. "I found your note. We need to talk. I know you're seeing these. Your boss said you're still going to work. Why won't you come home? I'm sorry, okay? I shouldn't have said that. People are asking questions. I don't know what to tell them. Please just call me. 5 minutes. I'm scared something happened to you. This isn't what I wanted." That last line actually made me chuckle. Wasn't what she wanted? She had been very clear about what she wanted. Crystal clear. That Friday, 2 weeks to the day since her party, I left her second gift. This one on the kitchen table. Neatly stacked. Straight to the point. A completed set of divorce papers signed on my end. Along with them, I included full documentation of our finances, copies of how I had gradually separated our accounts over the last month, how my paycheck had quietly been redirected to my private bank. There were documents showing I'd removed my name from all shared bills, utilities, credit cards, subscriptions. Anything that legally tied me to that house? Gone. Beside the papers, I left 2 sets of keys, one to the house, one to the car we shared. I had been the one making payments on that car since the beginning, but I was walking away from it too. I also included the cut-up credit cards already canceled. I walked out and didn't look back. That evening, around 6:47 p.m., my old phone started ringing again. I let it ring. By 7:30, 6 new voicemails had stacked up. "You can't just file for divorce without even talking to me. This is crazy. Come home so we can fix this. You can't just strip everything away and vanish like this. I never wanted this. You're being cruel. Please, Mike. We can still fix it." But she had wanted this. Or at least she said she did. And she said it with such confidence, such finality, that I had no choice but to believe her. She told me she'd be happier without me. Now she had the chance to prove it. The knock came just after 8 o'clock. I opened the door and there she was, standing there, arms crossed, leaning awkwardly against the door frame like she wasn't sure whether to yell or cry. Her eyes scanned the tiny studio behind me, bare walls, a worn couch, a couple boxes I hadn't touched yet. The life I'd quickly built from the remnants of what used to be ours. "You filed for divorce," she said, her voice small but sharp. "I did. You didn't even talk to me about it." "There wasn't anything left to say," I replied evenly. "You already told me exactly how you felt." She crossed her arms tightly across her chest, trying to steady her hands, though I could still see them trembling. She stood like someone trying to gather strength, trying to pretend the ground wasn't shifting beneath her. "I was angry when I said that," she muttered. "People say things in the heat of the moment." "You weren't angry," I said softly. "You were honest, maybe for the first time in months." Her lips parted like she wanted to argue, but nothing came out. "I can't afford the mortgage on my own," she said, quieter now. "The house. That's not my responsibility anymore," I said without hesitation. The utilities, the car payment, insurance, all of that's yours now. That's part of the independence you wanted. She looked at me like she didn't recognize the man standing in front of her. And maybe she didn't. Maybe I'd become someone new, someone who stopped asking for a place he wasn't welcome. This isn't what I meant, she said finally, a fragile edge in her voice. Then tell me, I asked, what did you mean, Emily, when you looked me in the eye and said you wanted me to disappear? What was the version of that where I stayed? She swallowed hard. I don't know. I guess. I thought we'd just take a break or something. I didn't think. You didn't think I'd actually listen to you. Her shoulders slumped. I was taking you for granted, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. Were you? I asked gently. Or did it just hit you that with me gone you would have to carry everything? That disappearing meant you'd have to live with what you said, and everything that comes with it. She flinched at that. I can change, she said almost desperately. I'm sure you can, I said, meeting her eyes, but not with me. Why not? She asked, her voice cracking. I looked at her, standing there in the doorway of my new life, 3 weeks after she got exactly what she asked for. And now she was trying to undo it. Because something died when you said what you said, I told her, my voice quiet but firm. You didn't ask for space. You didn't say you needed time to think. You told me, clearly, that your life would be better without me in it. She blinked quickly, trying to hold back tears. I was wrong, she whispered. I shook my head. No, I said. You were honest. That was the one time you said exactly what was in your heart. And I took it seriously. She stood there, not sure what to do with her hands, her body half leaning into the doorway like she wanted to come inside, but didn't dare ask. I'm not throwing anything away, I added, my hand resting on the edge of the door. I'm honoring your birthday wish. I paused, holding the door halfway open, letting the silence settle between us. You said the best gift I could give you was to disappear. So I did. I gave you exactly what you asked for. Wait, she said quickly, pressing her palm against the door, stopping it from closing. Please don't do this. I looked at her one last time. The difference between us is this, I said gently. When you told me you wanted me gone, you meant it. But now that you're facing what that actually feels like, when you say you want me back, that's not love. That's fear. Her lips parted like she wanted to say something, but the words didn't come. I nodded once, then softly pulled the door closed. And that was it.